So good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our public webinar today. My name is Jeannie Borum, and I am part of the corporate team, and I will be moderating our session. For those of you who have not participated in one of these in the past or watched one of our recorded sessions, just a very quick overview of the format so you know what to expect for today. We're delighted to have 3 current owners that are in business today on our call as our panelists. And we're going to first do an introduction for each of them. They're going to share some details about themselves, some background information and details about their business. And then the floor will turn to our attendees as guests, all prospective owners learning more about the business every day. We'll give each of you a chance to come off a mute, tell the group where you're located, and then give a question, a single question to the owners to all answer. If time permits, we'll go around a second time or maybe be able to allow some additional questions, but I'll be calling you out by name accordingly when your time comes up. So with that said, if we can start with our owners on the call and given their overviews and their backgrounds, that'd be great. I always like to go ladies first. So Michelle, if you can start, that'd be great.
All righty. My name is Michelle Mason. I'm located in Houston, Texas. I have been in business since 2019 is when I signed my contract. My equipment was delivered in December. I had my first employee. So we kind of opened up partially 2019, but I would really consider January 2020 starting. We are in a facility of 2,500 square feet. About 1,000 square feet of office space and 1,500 for shop space. I have right now myself, my husband, and only 1 employee. We're a little short-staffed right now. We've had some employees change, and our projected sales is $750,000.
There you go. What was your background, Michelle, before you?
I am a teacher by trade. So I taught school, kindergarten through 6th grade. And then when my kids got a little bit older, I then did nonprofit organizations, and I did the school PTA organization for years, ran that as president. So I've kind of run a nonprofit organization as well.
Wonderful. Anyone who could be a teacher in the grade school environment is a queen of multitasking and patience. So
Yeah.
That's fantastic. All right. Thanks for that overview, Michelle. Michael, if we can go to you next.
Yeah, good afternoon. QC Signs and Graphics, based in Charlotte, North Carolina. I am on the almost the exact same schedule as Michelle. Signed in late 2019, had our grand opening January 30th of 2020. So been coming up to 4 years soon. Our facility is 3,600 square feet. I wanted to start larger. We started off with the original package and ended up adding a second large format printer. Recently added a router and a flatbed printer as well. I've got 7 full-time and 2 part-time employees. Sales projection for 2023, I'm trying to scale back. We're at 1.6 million is where we're looking, maybe a little more. We were on pace to do over 2, and I don't want to do that, honestly. Biggest customer project, our big claim to fame, is we landed a multi-year contract with the Charlotte area transit system. So this last month, we've wrapped 4 full trains, numerous buses, hands down my largest customer. And I am like so many Signworld owners, I'm a corporate refugee. 24 years, primarily in retail, product development and sourcing. I've been to 27 countries and flown around the world 13 times. And I don't do that anymore. But anyways, found the opportunity, jumped on it. So.
And Michael's a little celebrity in our Signworld community. He's one of the passengers who survived the landing of the plane on the Hudson River. So if you ever get an opportunity, there's some great, I know I've seen some videos out there of you on public TV. So such a great story. So glad that turned out as well as it did.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I don't see our third owner on here, Sheree. So I'm going to pause and just make sure if you got a hold of him, or we'll just go ahead and kick off. And if he can join us at a certain point, we'll insert him accordingly.
Yeah, go ahead and kick off. I'm on the phone right now here. 1 second.
Okay, sounds great. All right, well, now is the time. We're going to turn the floor over to our attendees, or our participants, I should say. So Aaron, if I can ask you to come off of mute first, tell the group where you're from and go ahead for a question for the owners today.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks all for taking the time here. So Aaron Weinshank, I'm also here with my wife, Laura, and we're in Kansas City, right in the heart of the country. And as Jeannie said, to get us started, learn a little bit more every day. So been asking some questions and coming up to speed a little bit. I think one of the things that we're still learning as we've talked to a few people is, you know, like Jack says, no rules and there's no exact recipe, but, you know, really generating the pipeline and getting the business running is what we're interested in. So you both have kind of different stories of how you went about that. So I guess our story is what have you learned in your 3 years now doing this is the key to success of generating the customer pipeline and then keeping that healthy going forward?
Yeah, I think that's the key concern for anyone who's starting a business is how am I going to find customers? So let's kind of think back to those early months as you started and where it's at today and how you've continued to evolve. We'll start with you first, Michael.
Okay, really the key for us, and especially when COVID kicked in, is the internet. Having a solid web page and spending the time to make sure you look like what you want. Internet is what killed my retail career because I was a brick and mortar guy with no internet experience. But I knew the truth of it, that you've got to look good, you got to look strong. And from day one, we played at levels higher than we were. When I had one employee, we played like we were doing massive channel letter signs 50 stories up on buildings. That's how we played it. And that helped us get to where we wanted to be. I think that's really the key. After that is I have, knock on wood, I've never left a job unfinished. We've made mistakes, we fixed stuff, we've given stuff away for free, but we always finish and we always complete what we say we're going to do for a customer.
Very good. So early months and beginning of the business, did you do some networking as well, Michael? Because I know we, really advocate to, while you're getting your website started and getting that traction there to also simultaneously join some networking groups or just promoting your business. Did you do any of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Business Networking International, Rotarian, sat on the board for 2 years, and I'm still currently a member of 2 local chambers of commerce. Those all help.
And as you're at 3 years in business today, what do you think your percent of your total revenues is repeat customers? Do you feel like you've gotten, to a certain level yet?
It's growing. We are over 50% at this point. My goal has been to find that income every month and those customers where whatever they need, however, going after the big dogs.
Right.
I don't have an exact, I haven't calculated lately, but it's been going up and up and up for repeat. Today I was looking at my spend on marketing and it's I'm at like 6% of my net sales. And I was at 20% originally, and we've taken marketing way back and way down because we have the customers coming inflow. And we're actually turning away at least 1 in 3 inquiries, not even interested at this point.
Very good. Very good. Thank you for sharing that. Michelle?
Alrighty, so 2019, as soon as I signed the contract, I started selling myself. It's just opening your mouth, letting people know what you're able to do. And even before you have a shop and equipment and an employee, utilize other Signworld owners to help you facilitate those orders, just to get your feet wet. I also did networking groups all over my community to meet other people. Currently, I do no networking. I solely rely upon my website, which is amazing. So we're able to generate all of our leads through that, as well as referrals. I don't know if there's a way on Corebridge to utilize a program to figure that number out, but I'm kind of with Michael. I'm at least 50%, if not up to 75% of referrals, because once we land a customer, they know our capabilities, they tend to come back because we pick up the phones, we're responsive, we say we do what we're going to do, and we leave a quality product. And that will sell your business wholeheartedly. There's sign shops everywhere. You will start noticing them, but the work is out there and it's just being responsive to that. And then you're going to teach and educate your customers on what they need. Many of them come in for one thing and they leave with 3 or 5 things because they realize we're so much more than that. And so you've got kind of a front foyer where you're going to have sample projects, different capabilities. And once they walk in, they're just blown away at what we could do.
Love that, Michelle. Thanks for sharing. Let's see. I think we've got Mark online now. Mark, thanks for joining us today. You're a third owner for our panel. So if you can first just give a high-level overview of yourself, kind of your background information, and then we'll let you answer the question. I'll let you know what that question is after you share your overview quick. You're on mute still, Mark. Sorry.
Sorry about that. First of all, my name is Mark Casson. I'm the owner of Big Mouse Signs. We've been in business for a little over 19 years now. I purchased a Signworld, existing Signworld location in 2004. It had been in business for 6 years. And so at this point, the business itself is on year 25. We're in the Atlanta metro market. We're in the northeast part of Atlanta in a suburb called Lilburn, which, if you know Atlanta at all, it's by Stone Mountain. Our facility, I have a 4,000 square foot clean production design project manager facility. 2,400 square feet of that is garage and bathrooms. Directly across the parking lot in that industrial park is a 4,000 square foot, about 800 square foot of that is office, and I have a laser and an engraving machine in that area. 3,200 square feet of that facility is garage. We have a router table, 5x10 router table. We have a paint booth, et cetera, et cetera. And then about a year ago, we opened a little satellite location to give us more project manager space, a little bit more clean production space. That's 2,500 square foot. And it is on the other side of my sales territory. Employees, right now I have 11. I've had as many as 15, but we've consolidated down just a little bit. Our last year we did 2.5 million. This year, between all the locations that I mentioned, we expect we're probably going to end up doing somewhere around 3.1 maybe. Somewhere in that area. Our biggest customer is a physical therapy chain by the name of Upstream Rehabilitation. We've been doing signs for them for about 13 or 14 years. And they have expanded from 1 or 2 brands to about 37. And so we do pretty much all the signage for those, for that customer. Background career, I was a regional sales manager, regional vice president for some specialty retailers, originally Kenny Shoes, Champ Sports, and then Famous Footwear, before starting my own business.
Very good. So the question, the first question, Mark, is talking about getting customers. So obviously you acquired an existing operation, but as I recall, you've shared, what you inherited and how you built from there. You kind of had a lot in that journey. So as you think about business today, maybe, because it's different, than it was 25 years ago with yellow pages and everything else, what do you think are the keys to success to getting and keeping customers?
Well, first of all, there's an awful lot of bad sign companies out there. And, a willingness to, and this kind of echoes what I heard from Michael and Michelle, a willingness to solve your customers' problems. I train my staff that, our job, put yourself in the place of a new business owner, and they're worrying about everything, their startup, everything from the color of the carpet and the drapes to the electrical, to hiring staff. And, our job is to say, don't worry about your signage. I got you covered. Send me your art file, send me your landlord sign criteria. We'll do all the research on the sign permit. Give me an idea of what your budget is, and not because I'm trying to spend your entire budget, but it just allows me to know, what products I can suggest. I don't want to suggest things that are way out of your scope. And, when you put it that way, I think most of the time your customer immediately starts to think maybe you're on their side, or at least you can be an asset. And when you finish a sign for a customer on time and within the budget, within the quote, you've got a customer for life. You've got a customer for as long as you don't screw that up.
Love it. Thank you very much for that perspective. So let's go ahead and move on to our next guest with a question. Afshin, I hope I said that correctly. Please come off of mute, tell the group where you're from, and go ahead with the question.
Good afternoon. My name is Afshin. I'm located in Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada. And my question is, what was the biggest challenge you faced in starting your business?
All right, biggest challenge. So Mark, let's start with you first.
Yeah, that's a simple question, but it's a good question. I guess, really developing a staff. When I said that there's an awful lot of bad sign companies out there in the Atlanta metro area, there's inside the city limits of Atlanta, there's 676 sign companies. And so not only are there a lot of bad sign companies, there's a lot of bad sign employees. And the staff that I inherited, I wouldn't necessarily say that they were bad. I would say that they were misguided. And so you have to develop, you have to have a vision of what kind of a sign company you want to be. And what I tell my staff is how are you going to win? What's your strategy? How are you going to win? And our strategy in simplest terms is that we want to be the first sign company to do a site visit, even if we weren't the first one to get called. We want to be the first one to do the site visit. We want to be the first one to do a layout that the customer will approve, and the first one to provide a quote that the customer will agree to pay for. And if you do those three things, then in most cases you eliminate I got to get 3 quotes, because most customers do a poor job of planning for projects like this. They think that you can, walk into some big box store and grab a set of channel letters that just happens to have their company name on it. You'll get a large number of customers that are shocked that they can't get a sign in 2 or 3 weeks. And so when you keep that, when you have a vision, you have a strategy, it makes the whole rest of it work so much smoother, and pretty soon everybody's working towards the same goals.
Very good. Thank you, Mark. So newer owners, you started in 2019 and COVID was in 2020. So outside of COVID, because that's a common, obvious challenge for both of you when you started your business, what would you say is your next biggest challenge that you think would be helpful for these participants to hear? Michelle, let's start with you first. Y'all, you're still on mute. Sorry.
Sorry, it was out of my screen view. I couldn't click it. Anyway, I was trying to multitask here.
Yeah.
Same question? All of a sudden I got
Biggest challenge. that you
biggest
have,
challenge.
whether you
It
want to
would-
talk about in the beginning or currently today or both.
So it would be the learning curve of a new industry. For many of us, we left jobs behind that we were most familiar with, trained, educated, many years of service. Now we're coming to a new industry we're not as familiar with. I have grown incredible lengths in the 4 years that I've been a part of this. I now can speak with confidence that I didn't have my first few months. And so as you take on projects, you learn, you understand. I've got 2 younger boys and they're like, Mom, stop touching everything. Anytime I'm out in public, I see something, I've got to touch it. I'm asking questions, how it's made, what materials they use. I even kind of look at the quality of the workmanship. And so you just start learning, and that is frustrating and exciting, both in the same swoop. And then my second thing would be along that I heard earlier, it's employees, it's getting the staff. And then once you get them, keeping them. Sometimes you just can't keep them. They leave for different reasons, family, job change with a spouse. You know, you've done everything you could, but yet fate sometimes still takes them away. And so when you think you're up and running, you know, you get a left ball and you just regroup and find subcontractors that can fill in the holes, and you just move forward with the challenges. COVID hit, that was our best year. So despite receiving a wallop of a challenge, you could be creative, think outside of the box, and survive. So after surviving COVID, I know I could survive anything. It's just my attitude and moving forward.
Well, you were a grade school teacher, Michelle, so you definitely can survive anything. That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing. Michael, let's go to you next.
I'll go back to Mark and Michelle. Employees are a joy and a nightmare. Love them all. Second is mistakes. I remember interviewing a production manager, and I said, my goal is to get, mistakes down to 1 in 10. And he said, right now I'm currently about 1 in 4. There are lots of, we are painting a wall today. I've got 2 guys in a bucket out to paint a wall that we screwed up last week because they put too strong of a tape that ripped paint off the wall while installing graphics. So mistakes are still something we have dramatically brought them down. But that's something that cost us significantly early on. Just not understanding. I had a habit of going down rabbit holes. That sounds really interesting. We should try that. That's a cool job. Yeah, let's do it. $1 billion company, corporate boardroom. Oh, I want that one. Got it. Didn't do so well on it. So we got a little aggressive just trying to learn, and that cost financially, but learned a ton from it. But probably one of our biggest challenges really was just taking on more than we could handle at times.
Yeah, sometimes fast growth comes to a cost. So, love you sharing that other perspective of the situation. Okay, let's go to our next participant, Alpha. If you can please take yourself off mute, tell the group where you're from, and go ahead with the question.
Sure. My name is Alpha Diallo, and I apologize in advance, but I have some noise outside. And believe it or not, they're installing a sign on my building. I had no idea. So that's very funny. I've been looking at them through the whole process. And that got me to think about the process of, when I started looking at Signworld, and I'm from LA, Los Angeles, Southern California. And when I started looking at the signage business, I come from I'm a corporate refugee as well. And I worked in management consulting for 15 years. And, I had to hire a lot of contractors to work on some of the deals that we're working on with clients. So my question to you guys is, as you install those signs, as you look at the employees, because since employees is a key factor here, how do you go about finding those contractors to help you on site? Not so much on the design production so much, but, installing, repainting the walls and all that good stuff. I mean, that must be a challenging process as well, just thinking through it. And I'm trying to wrap my head around, what's the process to go about it? Do you have recurring contractors that you can work with, or do you have one on site that you actually hire full time? What is your solution for that? And what do you go about it? Thank you.
Yeah, very good question. So my first comment I'll just say really briefly is 90% of signs are inside buildings. So, we often think about those big, complex outside signs, and those definitely have a different level of challenges to work through, but most signage is inside buildings. So let's talk with Michael first. How do you approach, projects like that? Do you use contractors? How do you find them? Walk through the process.
So I've got an install team in-house of 2 full-time, and I got 2 part-time that also go. And even I was auguring a hole last week, which you shouldn't do as an owner, but I did, finishing a 900+ sign project up in Durham. We use anything from whether it's our current suppliers and asking them, other Signworld owners. I've got 2 in the Charlotte region, and we work closely together to help each other out. We pass work between each other because we all specialize in something a little different. But it's really talking to suppliers, talking to people in the market, finding people. For our Metro contract, I partner with another company. And they do all of our installs. We don't even touch it. We print it, we get it ready, we prep it, we lay it out, they take it. So we've got a number of different people, and it really was just connecting within the market. There are Facebook groups, there are Instagram groups, there are all kinds of different groups on top of what Signworld has to offer with the forums. And I will sometimes call Dan or Jack and say, hey, I got something here. What owner should I talk to? And they'll give me a couple owners, 3, 4 owners names. They call them and they'll be your expert. They can help you find what you need to find. So it's really networking within the organization, within the sign community, and with your vendors to find everything you need.
Very good. Thank you, Michael. Mark? You're on mute again. Sorry.
I'm distracted. I have a new puppy who thinks he needs to be part of this conversation. This, by the way, is Wally. When you first start out, you're going to probably ask if there's other Signworld locations in your area. You're going to say, hey, dude, who do you use for installs? And you're gradually going to build a roster of installers, and that's the standard normal thing to do. 19 years later, I don't have an inside install team. I have at times I've had a few part-timers that do some installs for me, but I don't per se have any full-time installers. However, I will tell you that we treat our installers like they are employees. And what do I mean by that? First of all, you wouldn't say to your graphic designer, hey, I've got 6 hours worth of graphic design work for you to do. What do you charge me? You come to an agreement. You agree that you're going to pay them $25 an hour or whatever. As quickly as possible, identify installers that you trust. And I'm not scared to have this conversation with installers. When I find one that I like and they become reliant on me, then I tell them that I expect to become their priority. And in exchange for me making them our priority installers, that means that when I need a job done, I need them to move mountains if that's what it takes to get the job done. The other advantage, and this is an advantage both for you and for them, is that installers hate doing quotes. They want to be up in their bucket truck. They're not making any money doing quotes. They want to be up in their bucket truck installing signs. They're charging $100, $150, $200 an hour, depending on the height. They want to be in their truck. So again, establishing, okay, how much are you going to charge me to do a set of channel letters if it's 2 raceways and it's just a standard install? You don't then have to ask them for a quote every job you want to send them, and they don't have to take the time to write it up. So establish that relationship. We have installers, we have production companies that, for example, we buy Christmas dinner for them. We buy barbecue, or we order a bunch of pizzas just to say, hey, you've been our partner all year and we appreciate you. And that's the key, in my opinion, and one of the keys to developing good outside helpers, installers, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you, Mark. Michelle?
All right, so this is kind of an interesting, conversation, because it's been all over the place. I've had subcontractors walk in my business door with portfolios looking to be hired. I've had them reach out by my website. And it just kind of depends how desperate you are, but I usually ask for a resume. I want to talk to them on the phone, and then I want to meet them in person to see if there's a relationship there. We had a team in-house. I had 2 installers, and those are the 2 that I lost. So then I had to rely upon my neighbors. So I check with close Signworld owners, ask them who they use, who are their installers. Many of them will share and drop names. You also ask your employees. I've hired other employees from reference of my current employees, because they enjoy working with people they're familiar with and also who has experience. I love the idea of utilizing the Signworld vendor, because you could hire someone that's already working with everyone. You know their quality. We met them at convention. They'll immediately give you a quote. We had a national account for Texas as well as California, so it just made it easy to reach out to a vendor within Signworld that they provided that does all installations. Also utilizing other Signworld owners to install signs if you're not able to do it. Our market's Houston, but we still get calls for Dallas. We get calls for, unique different places that aren't so close. So we will, reach out to another Signworld owner to install for us. And then we ourselves, we've acquired a bucket truck, CNC router. So we reach out to other Signworld owners to let them know what we have so that we can help them as well. So I didn't realize the capabilities of being a wholesale vendor ourselves to other people.
Very good. Thank you, Michelle. At this point, Sheree in the background is going to start playing some slideshows showing you different types of sign projects, profiles of our owners, and our unique Hall of Fame, so to speak, different types of projects our owners have done. So Sheree's going to put that in the background, no noise to it. It'll just be some pictures that you'll see as we continue through our conversation. Michelle and Mark, I also want to call out that there's a question in the Q&A chat. If you don't mind, when you aren't being talking, or during times you're not talking, respond to that question, that would be great. I'll make sure that Omar gets those answers afterwards. All right, let's move to our next participant. If I can have Jeff come off of mute and share where you're from, Jeff, and go ahead with the question for the group today.
Hi, this is Jeff. I'm in Salina, Texas, which is just a northern suburb of Dallas. I guess my question is, it's probably geared more towards Michael and Michelle, just because you guys are newer in the business. But how long till you guys were breaking even, able to pay yourselves a salary? Pretty quick and short question, but one I'd be interested in hearing about.
All right, very good. So let's break it down. So when did you become cash positive? So when was the expenses of the business being covered by the sales? And then when did you start taking a paycheck? And whatever you're willing to share to those numbers would be great. So Michael, I'll start with you first.
So as we previously mentioned, both Michelle and I started during COVID. I'm thinking she did better than I did. I was told time and time again my prices were too low, but I was so desperate for work, I would underbid, underprice everything because we had so few calls when COVID hit. I did not really take a salary until about 18 months in. before I fell. Today, I still take a salary half of what I probably should. But I do not want the company checking account to ever have less than 6 figures in it in cash reserves at all times, no matter what. We have 0 debt. We own a bucket truck. We own a truck, CNC router, flatbed printer, additional all paid cash for. So I kind of balanced. When I started this, I assumed I was going to put as much back into it as possible. So it took me 18 months before I really started taking a check from the company. That makes sense. We probably started turning a profit about a year in. And today I still make a third of what I used to make because I'm trying to put everything back in to grow the company almost as quickly as we can handle. And today we're pretty dang good. We are close to 20% margins year to date. And I'm still piling the money back in, if that makes sense, trying to grow.
Well, and I think the other very important detail to add to that equation is you have a $1.6 million business today at a 20% profit. So the resale value of your business is probably close to, I gotta imagine, 600,000, 700,000, 800,000 minimally. So if you equate that over the 3 years, although you may not have taken a paycheck, you've built up equity too. So just trying to help you out and make you feel better about that, Michael. All right, Michelle, let's go to you next.
All right, so my husband and I work together as a team. He still to this day has not taken a salary. That is his choice. We've chosen to do that because he wants to put everything back into the business. So like when we acquired the bucket truck, we were able to pay for that outright. We've also, increased other toys because he's a tool man. So he's got a lot of toys in the shop that he'd rather purchase than take an income. We are a woman-owned business. I think there's about 9% of us that are women-owned. And in order to file for applications, to have that certificate, you have to show that you are taking an income. So I take a small income just to kind of show the stability and so forth. But everything we're kind of making, we're just swinging back into the business, trying to, build up what we have. So.
Is there a point where you feel you might take the, pedal off the gas and start taking that salary, Michelle? Or do you have like a certain target you're trying to get to before you do that?
So we're just trying to evaluate everything, and we do need to make that decision soon.
Yeah, I think in those growth years, as you hear owners growing as significantly as these are, those are not necessarily where you're paying yourself, a higher amount. You're choosing to invest back into the business because you have a goal of building a bigger business. So
Right.
It's kind of whatever each owner has as far as financial goals and other professional or personal goals they may have. Each owner has a different story when it comes to this topic here. Michael, did you want to add something? I saw you.
Yeah, let me throw one more thing. I'm purposely trying not to take a salary. I've got daughters who are juniors and seniors in high school, and that FAFSA calculation is one that another owner whose daughter was on a full ride at Yale because he made zero money is what I'm trying to work in every way, case, and form. I want to get as much free government money that's out there and endowments and everything else for my daughters for college. And so I'm keeping my salary very low to show that I'm a low income kind of guy and utilize every benefit I can out there.
So work with a financial planner and they'll guide you on how to do that. We're doing the same thing. My son's a senior, our last one. So.
Very good. How about you, Mark? Any comments about, breaking even and income in the business, expectations, things like that?
Well, I was cash positive immediately. But again, I purchased a 6-year-old business. It didn't do anywhere near, at the time I purchased it, it was a sub $300,000 business. So it didn't do anywhere near as what Michael and Michelle have done in their first few years. So I do take a salary. I do kind of modify it based on, in 2008, the housing market crashed, and that was a severe effect to our business. And then again, with COVID, I reduced my salary some. I have invested about $400,000 in my business in the last 2.5 years. And so our profitability has obviously taken some hits based on that. So our profitability runs somewhere in the 10 to 15% range right now. But that was planned. We have the opportunity had the opportunity to go from about 2.5 million to 6.5 or 7 million based on a rebranding project. And so we invested a lot of money in equipment, but more than the equipment, we invested a lot of money in increasing our staff. And had we known that, eventually the strategy was going to change from our largest customer, we would have probably done things differently. But it's not like we weren't making a profit. So sometimes you take gambles and risks, and sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. In the meantime, we're still doing well.
Very good. Thank you, Mark. All right, let's go to our last guest of the day, Steve. If you can take yourself off of mute, tell the group where you're from and go ahead with a question.
Yes. Hello. Thank you all for doing this. And I think there was a couple or a gentleman early from Kansas City. It's ironic, the whole continent of North America, and I'm from Kansas City also. So anyway, so my question's about the type of sign. There's so many different signs. They're flashing on the screen right now. There's printed ones, whatever, all the variety from digital signs to you guys were talking about having a bucket truck, etc. What type of sign did you start with, and when did you evolve into another kind and another?
All right. So thinking about in the beginning of the business, what type of signs were your first project and how did that evolve over time? Let's start with you first, Mark.
Well, first of all, part of it is your personality, to be honest. Some guys, I know Signworld guys that their entire focus was on sandblasted signs. I know Signworld owners that, their entire focus is vehicle graphics. I'm not a big fan of doing vehicle graphics, so I don't market towards that. 20 years ago, very, very few sign companies had digital printers, so everything was cut vinyl, and you got a whole lot more per square foot back then for a banner. Banner was $10 a square foot plus additional dollars if there was more than 2 colors to it. Now you can buy a banner online for less than $2 a square foot. So that change in the marketplace forces you to change your product mix. Mine is going to be a lot different than Michelle and probably Michael's. I do an awful lot of channel letters, although I don't build any of them in-house. I sell an awful lot of LED displays. I've sold over 100 LED displays at $20-some thousand a piece. But the guy across town has a completely different product mix. So part of it is changes in the environment, the economy. Part of it is your personality. Part of it is the skill set of your designers. We're in the middle of a process of our hottest product right now is wall graphics to schools. And ironically, I found a website through a customer, and the website it's a flip book of graphics from a company in England that, just as an example, has the solar system, and the graphics are beautiful. Shows the placement of the planets, et cetera, et cetera. It's 168 pages long, and I've gotten into the habit of sending that to school customers that we did, for example, an LED display to, we did the LED display for, and I say, hey, just wanted to let you know. I know Michelle mentioned this earlier. Just wanted to let you know this is something else we do. And we have probably 25 projects right now with schools, different schools that involve that sort of thing. Timelines, for example. You know, the science hallway needs a graphic on rocket propulsion. And so you end up changing your product mix because of those trends.
Very good. Thank you, Mark.
Mhm.
Michael, let's go to you next.
So it's interesting, again, open during COVID, we would take absolutely anything that walked, any call, anything, anywhere, profit loss, didn't matter, just wanted work. I think what helped us was what I mentioned for our website. We want a very professional corporate looking website. One day got a call from the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And 3 years in a row now, we've done the main floor exhibit on the NASCAR Hall of Fame. I had no interest in vehicle graphics. I swore we weren't going to do that. And I think that helped propel us into some fleet vehicles and some other things. That propelled us into Charlotte area transit. So I kind of pivoted with what came our way. Today, our two biggest categories are one are vehicle wraps, and two is part of the reason about the flatbed and the router is apartment complexes. We've done 6 figures in apartment complex business so far this year. And those are two things that I didn't even have an eye on when I opened, but just followed the business where it took us, where the increase came in, and then played on it and built towards it from there.
That's great. Actually, before we go to Michelle, I loved how you added the top 2 sign types. Mark, what's the top 2 for you? I know LED displays is definitely one of them. What's
electric signs, channel letters is number 1. LED displays is number 2.
Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, let's go to you next, Michelle.
All right, so your customers dictate your direction. So within my mastermind group, I've got someone up in New Jersey. He had no idea that boats would be something he would cover. And we kind of nickname him the boatman. You know, we're an hour and a half away from the Gulf of Mexico. We thought we would do boats. Haven't done one. So it's kind of interesting, your expectation and then what happens. And so we would have to subcontract three-dimensional lobby signs because we didn't have the capabilities to make them in-house. We were doing that so much by our customers. We thought, well, now we could finance a CNC router, reduce our cost for expenses, and pay for a CNC router. Same thing happened with a bucket truck. We had outdoor installs, you know, and that kept on acquiring more business. And we thought, you know, maybe it's time to consider a bucket truck. We actually bought our bucket truck from a person that was retiring. So we acquired his truck. It was a little used and all his equipment, but yet it was at a significant less price than a brand new one with the bells and whistles. And so your customer will dictate your direction. My first customer was a realtor, and that has grown tremendously. It's probably one of our top 10 is for a large realtor firm here in Houston. We also do a lot of commercial realtor projects, post and panels. And so it's just kind of interesting to see the direction that you go. We tend to do indoor lobby signs. We also have a master electrician, so we do outdoor channel letters as well. And then a lot of vinyl, you know, a lot of vinyl to windows, to walls. We do fleet graphics, but we don't do complete vehicle wraps or color changes at all.
Very good. Thank you, Michelle. Michelle, if you can respond to the question that's in the Q&A box whenever you got a moment, that'd be great. I'm going to get that off to the participant that asked those questions. So at this point, we have about 5 or 7 more minutes, and we've gone around the group once. If any of you want to raise your hand, if you have a second question you'd like to ask, we'll give you a chance to do that.
Jeannie, real quick, I don't see anything in the chat box.
It's in the answered, I'm sorry, it's in the Q&A box under answered. If you just go into the answered box, the Q&A. And go to the answered, and then you can still type an answer for that. Thank you so much. All right, going back to our participants, any of you want to raise your hand or ask another question of the group today? And if you don't know how to raise, oh, there we go. Steve has one raised. I'll have you go first.
This just follows on to that last question, talking about the first customers or the type of signs. The initial package from Signworld, you know, that's your initial set of equipment. It seemed like that would almost dictate what kind of customers you could get, what your first jobs, because you've purchased the base equipment package, right? I mean, you're not ready to do laser engraving like Mark has down in Atlanta, or a CNC router, you know, like Michael purchased.
Right.
Doesn't that dictate your customers? Because that's your initial package. That's what you started with as a new franchisee. All right, I'm going on mute. Thank you.
No, it's a great question. So in-house capability versus outsourcing capability. And as you've heard each owner today, they've all increased their in-house capability by purchasing additional pieces of equipment through their journeys. But not all owners do that. Some actually continue to use just the basic equipment and scale their business with that and outsource all those other projects. So the thing you need to realize, Steve, it doesn't matter what kind of project it is, you're capable of saying yes to that customer because you have an ecosystem and a network that Signworld provides you with other owners and other partners that can do any type of project you can't do in-house. So even though you might be able don't have that laser and can't do the projects that a laser might be able to do, you have provided partners and suppliers from the very first day you start that you can rely on for those projects. So with that said, Mark, you want to add any additional commentary to in-house versus outsourcing and, you know, how that evolves over time?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, Steve. You know, there are Signworld owners that I know, one in Charlotte, that, you know, played with the, you know, I've been in business for X number of years, and so I need to invest in equipment and so on and so forth. And I think about a year ago, he decided, you know what, I'm done doing that. I'm not going to invest in more equipment. I'm going to sell off what equipment I have, and I'm going to build essentially like a brokerage type business. I'm going to do the design work. I'll do the site visits. I'll do the permitting, et cetera, but we're going to outsource pretty much all of the manufacturing. And you know, at the convention a few months ago, you know, he stands up as having one of the largest sales of anybody in Signworld, single transaction. He also stood up as having one of the largest accounts, meaning total sales for the entire year. So, you know, bottom line is there's more than one way to be successful in this business. You know, I didn't have anything beyond the standard equipment until year 16. And I was doing, you know, 1.7 million. So, you know, I think whatever strategy you want to take, it's possible to be successful doing that strategy.
Thank you, Mark. I'll go to you next, Michael.
Yeah, a year ago today, I had the starter package. Our CNC, obviously my CNC's up and running. My flatbed isn't even up and running. We're still having calibration problems. So I haven't made a single penny off that machine yet. But I don't think there is a network of 70, some, I don't know how many it is, but Signworld vendors. There's also local networks. And when I talk to local installers, I ask, hey, who else is making? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? And just asking the questions, there's plenty of people out there fabricating and making. I've never made a channel letter set. I've sold dozens and dozens and dozens of them. I've never made an electronic sign. We've sold dozens and dozens of those. It really is back to Mark's, the Signworld guy here in Charlotte as well. That's more of a broker, works out of a WeWork space. and does an incredible amount of business with just sales, design, and he outsources all the rest. He's been a great teacher to me in many ways. So I don't, it almost doesn't matter. The reason why we're bringing equipment is we're seeing what we're paying the guy down the street to route, to paint, to cut. I can cut my costs in less than half and lower my prices to my customer and increase my margins. So I can gain more business by being doing in-house. I brought install and bought a 20-year-old bucket van almost 2 years ago, and it's paid for itself multiple times. Just because the way, the more I can, to me, the more once I've got a business base, the more I can bring house, the more we can increase profits.
Love it. Thank you, Michael. Michelle, your thoughts?
All righty. So the question's in-house or out of house?
Correct. So in the beginning, with all the different sign projects, how did you have the capability to manage any customer requirement, not having all the equipment?
So we did everything we could in-house. And then as we became more familiar with other vendors within Signworld or other local shops, sometimes you just ask the question, can I make it? Can someone else make it for less? Can someone else make it quicker than what I could make it? And, you look for ease for yourself, for the customer, as well as what's in your tool house. So a lot of 3D signs are hand painted. Do you have a paint booth? Do you have access to a person who's trained doing that? If you don't, then you need to outsource painting your 3D letters. Signworld's got some great options. We're using a particular company that can outsource an item within 24 to 48 hours. If I'm busy, I'm going to outsource a project just so that I could take that customer, give them and meet their deadline. But it's something I could do in-house. I just don't have the time. So I'm going to outsource that. It's just kind of a work in progress, and you just kind of take it as it comes, and you do what you want to do and not waste your time with things you no longer want to do, because now you've got vendors that do it all the time, and they do it far quicker and faster and at a less of a cost.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. I'll make one last comment to this one, Steve. There is no one owner who is exactly like another owner in the Signworld system. We have 354 independent owners today running the business the way they want to. So this is not a one size fit all type of concept. It truly is a business that you scale and grow and develop to meet what you want to do as a business owner. But with a lot of capabilities to supplement that with external resources and a support system to do that. So great questions today. I see we're 1 past the hour, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up. The first thing here is to make sure Mark, Michael, and Michelle, thank you all very much for joining our call today, taking time out of your busy day to join us and share your perspectives and your thoughts. We really, really appreciate you. And to our participants, we appreciate you joining and wanting to learn more about Signworld. The corporate team looks forward to our continued conversations with you to, identify if this is the right path for your future. And we appreciate you joining us today. So thanks for that, and hope everybody has a great rest of your Wednesday. Take care all.